A frequent question we hear is, what's the difference between what you call relational presentation and the standard use of PowerPoint? To answer that question, we'll now visit another section of the network used by Aspire trainers. We call it components. Here I select the Overview category to take a more in-depth look at what it means to be a relational presenter. Before we start though, notice the style of navigation used here. It's called nested navigation because clicking an option above changes the available options below. The bottom links are said to be nested inside the larger categories. This form of navigation is especially powerful. As mentioned earlier, the main idea behind visually interactive communication is to connect what we say with what we show. If you say it, you're constantly thinking to yourself, how can I show that? What pictures, diagrams, video, animations do I have on my slides that can visually illustrate that point? You'll find yourself making comments such as, let me show you something, or take a look at this example, maybe that will help. When we initially started working on these concepts many years ago, our thought was that speakers would be able to easily adopt the ideas on their own. As it turns out, though, interactive use of PowerPoint apparently is a major paradigm shift, and many speakers who try it purely on their own, for whatever reason, don't succeed. And that's why we sensed the need to develop the workshop sessions and the books to give learners a more structured approach to mastering the concepts. Making the transition from regular presentation to a relational style requires a whole different way of thinking about your message. And if you really want to make that switch, here are 4 principles you'll need to think about very carefully. These attitudinal benchmarks serve as a kind of litmus test. If they resonate with your values and perspectives, you'll have a relatively easy time of being visually interactive. If not, you may struggle. The first principle addresses how we treat our content. We need to move away from considering slideshows to be cheap and disposable throwaway, and instead build content to be reusable. Most PowerPoint users these days create single, linear slideshows for individual performances, then deliver those talks, and often never use those slideshows again. And they may occasionally go back and tear apart a show or two to get content for an upcoming performance, but slides in general are designed to be made quickly and then thrown away afterwards. In relational presentation, content is treated differently. Most slides in a relational network are relatively permanent. They have a high quality, general purpose design similar to web pages and are available to be used over and over again across multiple events, perhaps even multiple presenters. In other words, when you build content for your upcoming event, you're not just making it for that event alone, you're adding it to an existing collection of permanent slides, like adding on a room to a house. Show me an example of what you mean, you say. Okay, let's pretend we're talking about bullet points, and you really do like bullet points and don't want to give them up. I say, all right, fine. If you must use bullet points, then at least follow this tried and true cognitive principle. As often as possible, follow your points with a real-world example of what you're talking about. And that is a valid cognitive principle, by the way. Now, take a look at the design of this slide. It's simple, multi-purpose, and clearly communicates the idea I want to get across. I can use this same slide over and over again, whether I'm talking to a group of pastors, executives, teachers, salespeople, or grade school students. Therefore, this slide is a permanent part of the network, and I simply display it when I need it, regardless of who I'm talking to. I don't have to redesign it each time for different audiences. And you may respond at this point, yeah, but I never give the same presentation twice. Why should I spend so much time building high-quality reusable slides? Think about it this way. You may never give exactly the same presentation twice, but is it possible parts of your message will be useful in different contexts on different days? Perhaps it will be helpful to reuse a picture again, or an introductory slide, or conclusion slides, or a comic strip. These items may be appropriate as permanent, reusable segments of your network. Principle 2 encourages you to move away from primarily text-based content to the alternative, rich media. A rich media is defined as just about anything besides text. It might mean pictures, graphs, audio, video, animations, and so forth. The reason for emphasizing rich media, especially the visual types, goes back to that dual coding process we described earlier. We need to be backing up our words with communication people can visually process. Another way of saying the same thing, to be honest, is we need to be showing people slides that are worth looking at. Your slideshows, whether you like it or not, are competing with media people see in their lives every day. You need displays that are worthy of their attention. Now, it will come as no surprise that producing this kind of quality content doesn't happen by accident. You might need to upgrade your media creation skills or find people who can build those pieces for you. Principle 3 might seem obvious at this point. We move away from strictly linear delivery, having one slideshow per performance, to non-linear delivery, where spontaneous choice between slides in multiple shows is available. The ability to choose content on demand means you will never again be trapped within a set PowerPoint sequence. Visuals become like words in a new language. And that thought is scary for many presenters considering an interactive approach. There's a tendency to believe that linear delivery is somehow easier and more predictable. After all, if we have hundreds or even thousands of slides to choose from, what if we get lost or can't find something? What may be surprising, and you'll just have to take this on faith at the moment, is that dynamic selection can give presenters so much more control and confidence. When you have the ability to flexibly contour your presentation along the way, public speaking can be considerably easier and far more rewarding. Principle 4 might seem a bit radical to some. The idea is to stop viewing the speaker's principal role as that of information giver. Instead, the emphasis is on forming a connection with the viewers. And here's what that means. The tendency for many of us is to think, I only have a short period of time with these people. I need to pack as much information as I can into the time we have. So they fill their slides full of so many facts and figures and bullet points that it takes a librarian to sort it all out. Well, we as viewers typically don't remember even a fraction of that detail. So why force us through that kind of experience? The alternative is to focus on building connections. The term connection implies 3 behaviors. First, you're interested in what your viewers know and think about your topics so that you can customize the message to their needs and understandings as much as possible. Second, you are an entertainer and you need to be entertaining. Part of the problem with standard presentation is that it plods from slide to slide through fact after fact and has all the excitement of watching grass grow on television. You, on the other hand, are not a television. Your responsibility is to be human, conversational, and responsive. Now, there's an implication here, of course, that your slides feature plenty of rich visual imagery so that content is also entertaining. Finally, you sell yourself and your message. Instead of giving people mountains of facts to digest, keep visual displays simple and sell them on the importance of exploring your message in more detail later. Maybe that means reading through a handout or buying a book, visiting a website. They're not going to remember most of those facts you give them anyway, so summarize the main ideas in an entertaining way and focus on getting people excited about learning more on their own.